The rain hammered the windshield like it was trying to break through, but I couldn't stop staring at Cameron's profile. Sharp jaw clenched, those green eyes fixed on the road ahead, unblinking. "From now on, Connor," he said, voice low and gravelly, like the rumble of the old Ford pickup we were in. "You obey me, all day, all night, no questions, or I swear, I'll walk out that door and never come back." His words hit me harder than the storm outside because I knew he meant it, and worse, I wanted to say yes. We'd pulled over on that deserted stretch of Highway 61, just outside Duluth, Minnesota, the kind of place where the pines whisper secrets to the wind and the lake's ghosts linger in the fog. It was the summer of 22, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and unspoken truths, and Cameron, my twin, my mirror, my everything, had just dropped the bomb that would shatter us both. Growing up in Ironwood, that Rust Belt speck on the Wisconsin border where the factories coughed out their last breaths before we hit 18, Cameron and I were inseparable. Identical down to the freckle on our left collarbones, the ones Mom said came from the same faulty angel's kiss. But where I was the quiet one, sketching maps of imaginary cities in my notebooks, Cameron was fire. Charismatic, reckless. The kid who hot-wired Dad's truck at 16 just to chase the northern lights. Dad called him the leader, and me the follower, like it was a compliment. After Dad split for some floozy in Milwaukee, and Mom's cancer turned her into a shadow that faded by our junior year, it was just us. Cameron stepped up, quit school to sling burgers at the diner, paid the bills with tips and lies about his age. I followed because that's what twins do, or at least that's what I told myself. But love? That crept in sneaky, like the first frost on Lake Superior. It started in whispers during those long nights after Mom's funeral, when we'd huddle in the attic of our sagging Victorian, sharing a quilt and stories about running away to San Francisco, where guys like us, guys who looked at each other a little too long, could breathe free. Cameron would trace the veins on my forearm with his thumb, absent-minded, and I'd feel it like lightning in my chest. "You're mine, Con," he'd murmur, half asleep, and I'd lie there, heart pounding, wondering if he meant it the way I did. By 18 we were out, kissing in the cab of that same Ford, tentative at first, then hungry, like we'd been starving our whole lives. It wasn't wrong. It was us. The world could burn for all we cared. We made it work, scraping by in a one-bedroom above the laundromat in Duluth, where the ships moaned like lovesick whales. Cameron found steady work welding at the shipyard, his hands scarred and sure, while I enrolled at the community college, chasing a graphic design degree that felt as flimsy as our dreams. Nights were ours, cooking chili from cans, dancing to Springsteen on the radio, bodies pressed close in the dim light of a single bulb. But Cameron's intensity grew, a shadow I couldn't outrun. "The world's shit, Con," he'd say, after a 12-hour shift, pulling me onto his lap. "But you're safe with me. Just trust me. Obey me." Started small, letting him pick my clothes, my routes home, my friends. I did, because his smile when I complied lit up the gray like the aurora we chased that one wild night. Then came the demand. That rainy evening on Highway 61, we'd been fighting stupid stuff like me wanting to go to a queer art exhibit in the Twin Cities without him. "You don't need that crap," he'd growled, slamming the truck door so hard the frame rattled. "People like us, we stick together. No outsiders." I pushed back, for the first time in years, yelling about walls and cages, how his protection felt like chains. That's when he turned, eyes wild, and laid it out. Total obedience. Day and night. No more questions. "Or I'm gone," he said, and the truck idled like a heartbeat on pause. I said yes. God help me, I did. Because losing him, that was the only hell I knew. The weeks that followed blurred into a fever dream of surrender. Mornings, he'd wake me with coffee black as his moods, dictating my outfit. Jeans that hugged just right, flannel unbuttoned enough to tease. "Wear this," he'd command, fingers lingering on my chest, and I'd comply, pulse racing at the possessiveness in his gaze. At college, I'd text him my every move. "In lecture now. Thinking of you." He'd reply with a thumbs up or a heart, but sometimes a single word, obey. Afternoons, I'd meet him at the yard, waiting in the cab with sandwiches wrapped in foil, listening as he vented about the foreman who rode him like a dog. Evenings were rituals, me cooking his favorites, steak rare and potatoes mashed smooth, serving it on our chipped formica table while he watched, approving or not with a nod. Nights were when the line between love and control dissolved. He'd pull me close, whispering orders that weren't orders at all, just the gravity of us. Stay here, don't move, love me like this. And I did every time because in his arms I was whole. But cracks formed, spiderwebbing under the surface. Friends drifted. Jake from design class stopped inviting me to coffee, sensing the leash I wore like a badge. "You okay, man?" he'd asked once, eyes flicking to my phone buzzing with Cameron's check-ins. I lied, said yeah, because admitting it felt like betraying the only family I had. Cameron noticed, of course. "Good," he'd say, kissing my temple. "You're mine. Remember." The betrayal hit like a nor'easter off the lake, sudden and savage. It was mid-October, leaves bleeding red and gold across the Iron Range, when Cameron started staying late at the yard. "Over time," he'd grunt, collapsing into bed smelling of metal and something sharper. Cologne? Perfume? I buried the doubt, obeyed the silence he demanded. But one night, after he'd passed out snoring, his phone lit up on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked. God, I shouldn't. But obedience has its rebellions, quiet as a thief. The texts were from R. Ryan, some welder from his crew, all muscle and easy grins from the one barbecue we'd hosted. "Last night was fire, Cam. When's round 3? Your place, your rules." Photos followed. Cameron's hand on Ryan's thigh in a dive bar booth, lips brushing necks, timestamps from nights I thought he was pulling doubles. My stomach twisted, bile rising like the lake in flood. Not just cheating, worse. The messages wove in commands. "Tell your brother to back off. I don't share." Cameron playing God with someone else while I knelt at his altar. I confronted him at dawn, the kitchen fogged with burnt toast, my voice cracking like thin ice. "Ryan? You've been with Ryan." He didn't deny it, just stared, coffee mug halfway to his lips, then set it down slow, deliberate. "It's nothing, Con. Just blowing off steam. You obey me, right? This is me obeying my needs." His words landed like punches, each one bruising deeper. Obey? That's what he'd twisted us into. A game where my devotion bought his freedom. I lunged, not to hit, but to grab his shirt, pleading through tears. "We're twins, Cam. We're supposed to be each other. How could you?" He shoved me back, gentle but firm, eyes flickering with something raw. "Guilt? Fear? Because I can't breathe with you clinging, Connor. You're suffocating me with this love. It's too much." Ryan gets it. No strings, no forever bullshit. The room spun, the world fracturing like the quarry pits back home. Betrayal wasn't the act. It was the lie he built our obedience on, a fortress of control to hide his own terror of us. I bolted that morning, tires screeching out of Duluth toward the cities, the radio blasting Dylan to drown the ache. Like a rolling stone. Fitting, I thought, as the skyline rose, all glass and grit. I crashed at Jake's, a sublet in Northeast with exposed brick and dreams of graphic novels. Days bled into weeks. Classes, sketches of fractured twins under city lights, nights nursing beers at the gay 90s, where drag queens lip-synced heartbreak and strangers' touches felt like mercy. Cameron's texts came in barrages. "Come home. Obey me. I need you." Then silence, a void colder than a January gale. The climax crashed down on All Souls' Day, wind howling through the streets like lost souls. I'd ignored his last plea. "Meet me at the Overlook, midnight, please." But something pulled, a twin's tether, unbreakable. The Overlook was that bluff above the Mississippi, where we'd parked as kids, dreaming of escape. Rain lashed horizontal, turning the world to silver sheets. He was there, silhouette against the roiling river, leather jacket slick, face gaunt in the sodium glow of a distant bridge. "Con," he choked as I approached, voice breaking on the wind. "I fucked up. Ryan was nothing, a distraction from how scared I am. He stepped close, hands trembling as he cupped my face, thumbs brushing tears I hadn't felt fall. Losing Mom, Dad. It gutted me. I thought controlling you meant controlling the pain. But it's you, always you. I love you. Not like a brother. Like air. His confession hung there, raw and real, the storm mirroring the chaos in his eyes. I wanted to run, to scream, but the pull was magnetic. You broke me, Cam, I whispered, fists balled in his jacket. Obedience? That wasn't love. That was fear. Lightning cracked, illuminating us. Two halves, jagged edges seeking fit. He dropped to his knees then, right there in the mud, gripping my waist like a drowning man. Forgive me, or let me go, but don't leave me half alive. The shock came not from his plea, but the truth crashing in. We'd both been puppets, dancing to grief's cruel tune. America, land of the free, had chained us in its small-town shadows, where love like ours hid in basements and backroads. But here, on this bluff, with the river roaring witness, I saw the humanism in our mess, the shared scars, the fierce loyalty that outlasted betrayal. I knelt too, pulling him into the rain, our foreheads touching, breaths mingling like the first time. No more orders, I said, fierce and soft. Just us, equals. He nodded, a sob escaping, and we held on as thunder rolled, the world washing clean. We didn't go back to Duluth right away. Instead, we drove south, chasing autumn's tail to Chicago, where the skyline promised reinvention. Cameron quit the yard, enrolled in a welding cert at a community college. I landed a freelance gig designing posters for a queer theater troupe. Nights were tentative, conversations over deep dish pizza, hands linking under tables, rebuilding trust brick by honest brick. It wasn't perfect. Shadows lingered, arguments flared like old habits. But love, real love, isn't obedience. It's choice, repeated daily, in the quiet acts. A shared laugh at a bad joke, a walk along the lakefront at dawn, whispering futures without fear. One evening, months later, as snow dusted the magnificent mile, Cameron turned to me in our tiny Logan Square apartment, eyes clear for the first time in years. I'm sorry, Con, for everything. I kissed him then, slow and sure, tasting redemption. We're twins, I murmured. We forgive. We endure. In the end, it wasn't happily ever after, no fairy tale bow. Life's too American for that, too gritty with its rust and rain. But it was ours. Two boys from the range, loving fiercely, humanly, against the odds. And in that we found our freedom. Not in escape, but in each other, unbroken.